Hi, I'm Jerry James Stone. In today's video, we're going to talk about the difference between scallions, sometimes called green onions, or spring onions. So let's get to it. Okay, so we have scallions, which are these babies right here, sometimes called green onions. Then we also have spring onions, these babies right here. So what's the difference between the two? Well, you've probably seen both in the produce aisle or at a farmer's market, and it can be really confusing because people use the names interchangeably. Scallions, also sometimes called green onions, can also sometimes be called spring onions, which makes it even harder to keep the two separate, but they're very, very, very different. So scallions, these babies right here, they're actually a cultivar of the onion family, and they don't actually produce a bulb. They've been primed to never produce a bulb. So they have these little tiny roots that'll form on the white end. This is as big as it's probably gonna get. It has this lighter green area, and then they have the tubular greens on the end. So the scallions are never ever gonna get a fully developed bulb. That's one of the main differences between them and an actual spring onion. Spring onions, like these babies here, can pretty much be any color that regular onions are because they're just an immature onion. They're actually harvested before a full bulb has formed. So that difference is that the onion part is like a lot tender. It's a lot like softer as far as those like really strong onion flavors. It's really, really gentle and can be a great sort of introductory onion if someone maybe does not like onions. It's wonderful for that sort of stuff. The other difference is the greens on spring onions, you don't want to consume those. They're usually too tough, too difficult to for a garnish. They're too difficult to cook. They're just not as tender and delicious as the ones that you get on the green onions / scallions. So that's a main difference between the two. The scallion is actually just developed to only be a scallion. It doesn't produce a bulb. It just has these lovely, tender, delicious greens and white onion part. The spring onion is just a onion bulb that's been pulled out early, and as a result is much more delicious if you're not a huge onion fan. Like it's a little bit softer on the palate, but it's not a scallion. You can't use the greens. Botanically speaking, the scallion or green onion is also known as the Japanese bunching onion, or if you want to get technical, the Allium fistulosum. So that's one main difference. The spring onion is completely different. On the flip side, the spring onion, the Allium cepa, is just a regular common onion. Like I said, it's just been pulled out of the ground early, so it's a lot softer, a lot as acidic. These are great for grilling, like they're really delicious. There's lots of things you can use them in. Just only use the onion part, don't use the greens. So why the confusion? Because like I said, scallions can sometimes be called green onions or spring onions. Well, what it comes down to is in other countries, scallions, which are referred to as green onions, are pretty commonly called spring onions. Here in the States, we don't typically call them that, but they can be called that in other countries. And I think if you're Googling things and looking for recipes that involve them, or, have foreigners as friends, whatever it may be, like that interchangeable word usage can make it really, really confusing. So that's probably why it's really confusing, because scallions, like I said, as green onions, in other countries are referred to as spring onions. And here in the States, these are the spring onions, the sort of premature common onion. That's the difference between the two. So if you like this video, hey, you know what? Give me a thumbs up. If you like to cook like I do, I release new videos every single week, so please subscribe. Also, if there's something that you want to see, just drop a comment below. I'm always looking for inspo. I'll see you guys next time.